there has been, at least at this point in time, no suspension of this Assembly and this Executive. And that stands in stark contrast to the previous attempt post the Belfast Agreement, whenever the Executive was up and down with seeming weekly, if not monthly, regularity. We have agreed, whether some people now disagree with it or not, we had agreed, all parties in the Executive agreed, a budget, a programme for government and an investment strategy, fundamental documents, huge documents that are of great importance that were agreed by all sides at that time. And we've heard from the First Minister back in September about the number of agreements that have been made at executive level. In contrast to the 31 months of the UUP SDLP-led Executive in the early part of the last decade, there was 320 agreements over those 31 months, yet in less time, the current Executive, in 29 months, had agreement on 451 issues at the Executive table. And yet, in spite of those big fundamental agreements, we still have Mr Lunn standing forward here and asking, what have we achieved? What have we achieved? You know, fueling this fire that we've achieved nothing. Well, he may not be proud of what we have done in this Assembly since 2007, but I am. And I can think of a long list of issues. Record levels of investment in our infrastructure, the introduction of a small business rates relief, a cap on industrial rates, the freezing of the domestic rate, a lone pensioners allowance that has reaped over £2 million for some of the most vulnerable people in our society. And that's issues that my own party has helped to introduce. And I can point to other parties, Deputy Speaker, in this chamber. I can look across the benches of Sinn Féin ministers and say they've introduced free, or one of their ministers introduced free public transport for over 60s. I can look at the SDLP benches and say that their minister is this year, as she reminded us earlier, record numbers of, for the last decade, record new build houses for social housing. I look at the UUP benches and talk about free prescription charges. So every party has done things and made a consistent effort. And I think that's something that we should be proud of. I think we need, Mr Speaker, a reform. If we want to have quick responses and good responses, we need to have a reform of this system. My party has been consistent in outlining how that can be achieved. And I think we have achieved much. There's certainly much more to do. But beating ourselves up in the way that Mr Lunn wanted to do only fuels a vicious circle and fuels the fire that is out there and wanting to criticise this institution.